We're down at Force Induction Motorsports today, working on the Tacoma for another Taco Tuesday. Today we're gonna be putting a level kit on the truck. Now we're gonna be leveling the truck the proper way, and that is with a full Bilstein shock set. This is the 5100 series. This is the more common, more affordable option that a lot of people tend to go for. Now what I've seen online is there is a, I wanna say it's 70 series or 60 series above the 5100. Now the 5100 series shocks are going to use your factory struts, the factory springs. It's not intended to use an aftermarket spring from what people have reached out and gotten back from Bilstein. So this should be a solid option for us. This is going to lift the front end of the truck about an inch, and it's going to keep the rear of the truck at the same height. Now from the factory, the Tacoma's front end always sits a little bit lower than the rear end, primarily due to if you're going to be towing, that way as you put something on the rear, it's going to squat the rear end a little bit so the truck becomes level. Now with doing this level kit, it's not going to be the end of the world if we do decide to tow something. We're just going to be a little bit of a squatted truck if it comes down to that. This is the kit that we are going to be using. Here's our rear shocks, here's our front shocks. So like I said, this isn't going to change the rear height of the truck. This shock is just going to match this shock, so that way the return rate or the shock rebound is the same between the shocks themselves. Now I've seen a lot of people online when it comes to leveling kits installing a shock spacer in the front of their truck above the actual coil right there, and it works, don't get me wrong. You're also going to be limiting the shock travel because you're putting an inch thick piece of metal right there. So this is really the proper way to level your truck if this is something you're considering. This kit runs about $450, $500, and it's really not too hard to install. So we've got the Tacoma up on the lift. Let's take a measurement from our center line on our wheel up to our fender to kind of see where we come back for measurements. Center line of our wheel up to our fender, we're sitting at about 21 inches, 1 foot 9 inches, 1 foot 9 inches, is that right? That's 21 inches. 21 inches. So it should roughly be about 22 after we put our new shocks in. This is gonna be a lot of work for 1 inch, but sometimes 1 inch makes a difference. That's not painful though. Pull hard now. Look at that. That's a tire. So it doesn't look too bad. We got a 19 on the bottom and we've got the 2 up on top. I don't quite know if this is like one massively long bolt or not though, so we'll have to figure that out. I feel like the bottom's gonna be way worse than the top. Or the front's gonna be way worse than the back. But doing this will allow us to fit bigger tires. I'm gonna go for these lower control arm bolts because I feel like that's gonna be the easiest way to get the shock out. So I'm gonna grab a paint marker and just kind of mark on here where these concentric bolts line up. Once I get these out, I should be able to swing this arm down and out of the way a bit. So that way we can just pull the shock out of the bottom. And then we can just reinsert the new one up through the top. And we'll do it on the other side. I got a gigantic breaker bar though with a 22, so this shouldn't be too bad. Will this guy fit? Oh, hell yeah, it will. Hell yeah! That's freedom! The concentric bolt is, that's how you do your alignments. It's like an oblong or offset bolt, which is why we marked them so that way our alignment will be somewhat close still. So it's not a million miles off, so that way when we're driving, it's not super far off. I think I gotta take the skid plate off. Hold up. Hold up. All right, there we go. Right here. Holy shit. A little rusted. But that should, look at that, drops our shock. Ugh. Woo! There's one. Our shock out here, this is where it's going to get a little sketch compressing the spring down, but we kind of got to do it. I'm not a huge fan of spring compressors, but sometimes it must be done. It's going to shoot straight at you. What do you mean you're going to stand right there? Like, don't stand right there. The fronts are the hardest, so once we can get past the fronts, yeah, the rear should be easy. Even pressure is your friend. I'm gonna point it at you guys when I release this. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's off and it's moldy.
I should put a rag or a towel over it or something.
It was really moldy.
I haven't even looked. All right.
Shit.
Woo! Woo!
Please come on.
Almost got some
All right.
purse.
Oh, get it away. We have the old shock off. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie to you guys, dude. This was a little bit sketch doing it. It took 3 of us to do it. So that spring compressor that we have, it's a little bit difficult on the truck springs just because the spring is like physically thicker than that of a car spring. Because I'm pretty sure the spring compressor is meant for cars. It did definitely work for the truck, so I'm gonna leave that there until we're ready to uncompress that. But for the time being, let's go ahead and set up our new shock. So Bilstein does give you all of these new components for what we're gonna be swapping over. There really isn't anything that we're taking off of this shock and putting onto this one. We're just gonna be building off of this shock and then getting it reinstalled in the truck. And then we can do the passenger side after we get this done. The rears should be 1,000 times easier. The hardest part of doing all of this is just going to be compressing the stock spring and transferring it over to your new shock. So I've got my instructions here from Bilstein, and it looks like circlip location 1, which is what it starts out on, is stock. So we want to go up to position 3, which is a 1.1 inch lift, I believe. So that guy, we got our spring seat that's going to come down, and that is going to, I think it just sits on it. I don't even think it locks in. We can put our dust cover back on. 46 millimeter outer diameter. That one's 50. This one's 46. So the smallest one is the one that's going to go on next, and that goes on face up right here. Install spring compressor with the spring seat, refer to figure 3. All right, we've got it in there appropriately. Install the OE rubber mount over the threaded arm stem. So that's gonna be this guy. The spring seat all cleaned up, and go ahead and slide that over the top here. We want to make sure that the spring is actually sitting where it should be on this shock. Kind of just go off of where it was prior. So now that we've got that on there, upper bushing, which is going to be this guy, it's going to slide right over like so. Because that guy will go on there, but then we still have this massive washer that they have not told me where to go. Why did they give me this? What is this for, brother? Definitely does not feel like 20 foot-pounds yet. We have our shock ready to go back in the truck. Just to give you guys a little comparison here with our new shock body versus the factory Toyota one, the Bilstein 5100 series, you guys can see like the physical difference in size, how the 5100 series is much thicker than these factory Toyota TRD Bilsteins. We're looking at Type R's as a replacement car for one of the others. So let's get this thing in. Now this should, in theory, just kind of slide up and in. I'm gonna try to wiggle my arm up in there, get these nuts on there. Noodle our shock body up and through. All right, this only fits in one way, I presume, which is it like that? Nope. We gotta rotate again. There we go. Really not too bad of an install. It's just kind of, with any new truck that you're doing or any new vehicle that you're working on, you just got to kind of figure out what you're doing as you go through it, because it's always going to be something new and different. This is my first time working on a Tacoma, but arrivederci. I gotta take out my end link so I can put my shock back in, Daddy. Yeah, that's you. Oh, this feels like it's gonna snap. Well, it looks like we're not gonna reconnect up this shock until we get the other side off, because right now I can't get the lower control arm back in since we have this end link still connected. So we'll take off the other side, get it so that way the load distribution is at least somewhat same, and then we'll bolt everything back up and in. Looks like we're buying end links for the truck, long travel suspension, a supercharger, all today. Making a lot of stuff in. Shock goes in. Front shocks installed with the new springs. Honestly, it wasn't terrible. Just to give you guys an idea what I was talking about, if you come down here and you look on the back side, you'll see those white lines that I made right there, and that was just to keep our alignment as square as possible. We do have a bad end link here that is going to make a noise as we're driving, so we are going to have to get some new end links for this thing. I'll probably just have to cut this and then pull the stud out, put a new one in right there. But overall, not too bad for the fronts. The rears look a hell of a lot easier. I could be mistaken though. I've never done these before, but it looks like it's just 2 bolts, one right up top and then one right down on the bottom. So let's get that front tire on, get the rear swapped out, put this thing back on the ground, get a measurement from our tire to our fender to see if we actually did go up an inch, which we should have, but the overall shock body of those is just thick. Like the rears are roughly the same size as the fronts, and you guys can see a noticeable difference between the thickness of these 2 shock bodies. So not only for a lift, but I'm curious to see how these will actually ride as well. We just got a 17, a 17, and a 14. Just like with the other shocks, the top is spinning, so we are just going to have to get our 14 on here, grab it with some vice grips on the flat areas, and just kind of keep it from rotating. That looks lifted. Does that look lifted? It did what the paper said, man. 23. It was at 21. Maybe it'll settle.
Yeah.
God damn it! Did I just make a squatted truck? Did that change anything? Made a squatted truck. God damn it!
Oh, it totally went down. Yeah. Oh, it totally just went down, like way down.
Did it
Like lower.
actually?
Yeah, it actually did.
No, it really did.
You lying to me?
Oh, damn. Quite heavy there, actually, maybe, huh?
Are you lying to me, or did it actually just go down?
It did come
Okay,
down.
it did. It did come down. It did come down.
It did.
It did. Is that center line in the wheel? Is that like right in the middle of the wheel?
Oh, yes, right there.
Okay, we're at 22 now. All right, that's where it should be.
Okay.
All right, woo! We did not make a squatted truck. So it is a couple days later, and I will say, these shocks are actually quite nice. The truck still feels like it's rather smooth, which is something that I obviously wanted to retain. I know with some kits out there, you can have some decreased drivability and some decreased like day-to-day use. And with these Bilstein 5100s, I'd say I'm like more than happy with them. No weird noises aside from that broken end link that's right down there, but we do have a new end link sitting over at the house right now for it. So, you know, that's a positive, that's a win in my book. Plus the new end link was only like 20 bucks, so really can't complain too much with that. I will say it did take a couple minutes for the truck to actually settle the suspension out. I don't know if that's because we may have compressed the springs a little bit funny or anything like that, but overall, after it had settled, it's really not bad. Once the springs kind of sat down, it put the front right level with the rear. At first, the front was a little bit higher, which had me bugging out, but I'm glad that it did settle because the truck actually looks really good leveled. We have some wheels and tires on the way for the truck. We have an exhaust coming. I put in this fun head unit, which you guys will get a video on later because I couldn't stand not having Apple CarPlay in this thing. But dude, overall, like, it's a solid upgrade for anybody out there considering wanting to level their truck and doing it in a way that's not going to sacrifice any like comfort or ride quality or anything like that. So with the leveling kit, this is how the truck sits now, which I am more than happy with. It doesn't have that weird nosedive that a lot of the stock, well, that all stock Tacomas do. And I know it's there for a function. Most people aren't using these to tow really heavy loads. If we are going to be towing anything, it will squat a little bit, but it's not going to be something that we can't ultimately deal with. The shocks are looking pretty good as well. They're not noisy, they're comfy. It looks good. I think with the wheels and tires that we do have coming for this thing, it'll fill out the wheel wheel wells nicely. I think we're gonna end up going with like a 285 tire size on here, like 285/70 is what I think we're gonna end up with. I know the new wheels are 17 by 8 minus 10, so we should get a little bit of poke, which should fill all of this out nicely. But that is all I've got for you guys on this one. We snagged the shocks from Stage 3 Motorsport, so I will link them down below if you guys are looking to snag one of these shock kits. It's a pretty popular shock option that a lot of people go with for a long time in like the off-road and aftermarket stuff for a lot of these, I guess, trucks, Jeeps, things like that. So I know it's a popular shock that a lot of people use. For the price point of like $400 to $500, it's a really good option that gives you adjustability and room for growth. If we want to go up another inch on the truck, we can. We just get some spacer blocks for the rear leaf springs, and then we can just readjust those front shocks to go up another inch, and we'll be solid. So with that, that's all I got for you guys on this one. We'll keep doing the Taco Tuesday stuff. Every Tuesday will be a new Tacoma video, whether that's just doing stuff with the Tacoma, modifying the Tacoma, something Tacoma related. But with that, like I said, that's all I got for you guys. If you liked the video, you know what to do. Go and hit that like button, turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver, sight, and whatever color it turns for you. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to be, I'll put it in one of these corners. No idea which one quite yet, but with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. So peace out, homies.